Welcome to the Rally Community Call. Today, we want to walk you through the decentralization proposal and respond to some of the questions that you guys have been asking on Discord and in the forums, including questions about the budget, RLY price, sidechain, and creator ecosystem. As we go through the presentation, feel free to pop in questions in the chat, and we'll get to as many as we can at the end. And for now, I'll hand it over to Kevin to get us started. Kevin?
Hey, thanks, Kurt. Hi, everyone. Really excited to have this community call today to walk over our decentralization plans. We hope we get a ton of questions, and we're going to spend a lot of time at the end just addressing questions that people pop in chat and some of the great questions that have come up in the forums and Discord. So look forward to that. Now, in terms of decentralization, Amit and I, when we first started the Rally blog a year ago, we talked about how decentralization was one of the founding principles, and specifically that we wanted Rally, the RLY network, to be owned by the community. And for us to be successful as a community, we want everyone to be able to ask questions and be familiar with what we're working on. So as a backdrop into why we're launching multiple entities as we decentralize the RLY network, the RLY network, we've always kind of talked about how we wanted to help bring the next 100 million users into crypto. And I want to emphasize here the next 100 million users into crypto part. What we've tried to do at Rally is try to build technology that makes it really easy for consumers that have never been a crypto user before to get into crypto for the first time and have a real reason for doing it. We spent a lot of time focusing on compliance compliance and infrastructure, because we wanted some of the biggest creators and celebrities and athletes and musicians in the world to be able to get into crypto safely on the right side of the law. And we anticipated some of the regulations that are now in the headlines a few years ago. And it's been a big and huge competitive moat for us in terms of the RLY network to have made that investment years ago. And I think we're going to start seeing the fruits of that pretty soon. If you go to the next slide, why do we think helping people create tokens will lead to the next 100 million users into crypto? Well, what you're seeing here is the internet in kind of the early days. This is Yahoo back in 1995, when pretty much all the interesting things on the internet was in a directory style format. And back in 1995, I think, if you were to think that you can create a website and put something on the internet, this was a really foreign concept to the average person, back then. Of course, the internet population was pretty small. And so to create a website and put it on the internet, back then, there was a lot of technical know-how in terms of how to code up a website, how to stand up a web server, how to get that web server connected to the internet. And no one in 1995 probably thought that the average consumer could snap a photo 1 second and post it to the entire world in the next second. If you go to the next slide, that's exactly what we have now, and billions of people are doing it. And this is a pretty, while this journey took about 25 years in the internet, if you really think about what we're doing at the RLY network in Rally.io, it's kind of the same journey, and I think it'll be accelerated greatly. Crypto is really hard right now. So if you think about creating a token, creating an NFT, it's getting easier and easier, but you have to think about smart contracts, you have to think about how to mint NFTs and navigate L1s and L2s. It's just difficult for the average consumer to think about creating a new crypto asset in crypto today. But how do we make it just as easy for the average person to create an NFT or a social token, just like somebody would create content for Instagram or TikTok or Twitter these days? And I think with Rally.io, we've started with existing creators, but with the plans that we're laying out for decentralization, we want to turn the RLY network into a social token protocol that helps bring the next 100 million people into crypto, the same way that the internet kind of broadly works today. So as the entire community builds towards the future, I want to just reaffirm that our commitment from the very get-go was, how do we help make sure that everyone that participates in RLY is an owner of this. We were, this was our commitment since day one. And when we thought about what we were trying to do with the RLY network, we didn't want to simply disrupt big tech and then become the new big tech. What we wanted to do was, if we're successful with this mission that we're on to help the next 100 million people find a really useful way to get into crypto, we want those 100 million people to be owners in this network. And I personally believe that whatever may be possible with technology from a decentralization standpoint, the practical aspect of decentralization just means that the community can't really own the RLY network if there's a single company at the center of the RLY network that has extensive control over what we do. So that's why we're so focused on decentralization, is to deliver on our commitment to make sure that the RLY network is owned by everyone that's participating in it. All right, go to the next slide. So the agenda for today, we're going to walk through decentralization a little bit more with Ira. We're going to introduce the 5 independent entities that we talked about in the forum post. We'll go over some of the key rationales and introduce some of the people that are going to be heading up these different entities that we've been working on to recruit into Rally or across the different RLY network. And then we'll make sure we get to as many questions as we can at the end. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ira.
Great, thanks, Kevin. And thank all you guys. This is a big group we have today. You guys are the reason why Rally and the RLY project has grown so successfully. You guys have the passion, you have the ability to build and be part of our mission. And we couldn't be more excited to embark on this next part of the evolution with you guys. So I just have a couple of slides today. Everything that I'm covering right now is basically covered in the forum proposal. So if you haven't read it or participated on that chat, please go ahead and do so. It's a lively conversation. We really want you guys to be a part of it. So what is decentralization? Put simply, it's the shifting of decision-making authority and control from a central party and to a distributed network, basically what Kevin was just going over. And the definition is really just a part of it. It's a philosophy. Decentralization is core to the purpose of blockchain and what makes communities powerful. It's basically testing to see what a decentralized community can achieve when there is no single decision maker that's exerting undue control. And for Rally and for the RLY protocol, it has been the goal that we've had from the beginning, to empower a network of developers and creators, your communities, and empower you to use your ideas and build something new and to take ownership of what it is that you build. There's a lot of ideas and a lot of developing best practices on how to achieve decentralization. And we as a team, we've drawn leadership from projects, from thought leaders throughout the years. We wanted to point out a few that I recommend you guys look into just because they're really fascinating on how they've decided to decentralize and assist their communities to own the networks. Jesse Walden is from A16Z. He actually published a playbook for progressive decentralization. And MakerDAO, Synthetics, Blockstacks, you guys have probably heard of a lot of these projects. They're projects that we've been watching closely as they've evolved and drawn from some of the inspiration that they've created. So decentralization proposal. What we've come up with is somewhat unique and also draws inspiration from these other projects that have done it before us. For the Rally and the RLY protocol, we came up with this proposal we're presenting today, and that's in the discourse proposal, that we're launching these multiple projects to achieve these key goals. So first, create a clear separation between the RLY protocol network level and application level projects. We want to make sure that the lines are clear between the larger mainnet protocol and each of the consumer applications that are built on the protocol. And as we all know, Rally.io is the first and has been incredibly successful. And there's so many more opportunities for new projects to come that we haven't even dreamed of. Second, to establish the governance role of RLY token holding community. The formation of the RLY Network Association is going to enable the defining of the governance control that's held by all the token holders by a nonprofit entity that has a mission to maintain and develop the protocol for the good of all the applications. Amit's going to go into this further later in the call. Third, to enable global expansion. Mirroring the success of Rally.io, the new project that Kevin mentioned is going to launch to attract creators and artists and fans in the Asian region. And this will enable RLY protocol to be brought before an entirely new global audience. And we hope that this will be a project that will serve as a blueprint to build and launch future projects around the world. Fourth, empower the next wave of RLY protocol consumer apps. The new project that Kevin mentioned, Superlayer Labs, is going to partner with developers to design and fund new consumer apps and businesses that leverage the RLY protocol. And the Ecosystem DAO will be the vehicle for you guys, for the community, to provide input on what the new project ideas may be. The more apps that are built on the RLY protocol, the more the entire network benefits. And finally, all caps, embrace the promise of blockchain. Truly effective decentralization of governance through the creation of independent but symbiotic projects is made possible because of the power of blockchain technology. It's been the vision of the RLY protocol from the very beginning that a gradual evolution towards greater decentralization not only adds to the stability of the network, but it also ensures the existence of a vibrant, engaged community who will own and control and will continue to drive it. And so with that, I'll hand it back to you, Kevin.
Hey, thanks, Sarah. All right. So we'll start to touch on what the initial 5 projects in the community will look like. So the first is a nonprofit Switzerland-based RLY Network Association. And this is going to house the core blockchain technology, be responsible for the network rewards, as well as a part of the community treasury. We'll talk about a new community-powered ecosystem DAO that we spent a little bit of time on the forums talking about. We'll talk about what RLY, the US entity, we'll focus on. We'll spend some time with Rob over for what we're working on in Asia. And then we'll talk about Superlayer Labs. One of the points of breaking up the kind of singular entity at the center of RLY right now is to create an ecosystem where there's a more level playing field where anybody, whether you're a creator or you're a developer, you're a third party in the existing business that wants to build on top of the RLY network, what we want is a rich ecosystem where everyone feels like they can build on top of RLY and not be competing with a single sort of corporation at the center of the network. And today, I think we're pretty excited to already have some exciting developers building interesting stuff. So let's start with the flagship, which is what most people think of when they think about the RLY network today, which is RLY. I'm excited to, I think most people here know Bremner Morris. I was fortunate to meet Bremner early this year and proposed that he come on as a community appointed CMO. And it's been fantastic working with Bremner. And as I stepped down from the RLY Corporation, we've talked internally about promoting Bremner into the CEO role. And so I'll turn it over to him to tell you more about what RLY is working on.
Awesome. Thanks, Kevin. First off, I just wanted to kick off by saying that I am truly honored and also humbled to have this opportunity. One, it's an incredible team within RLY, the organization, but secondly, it's such a fantastic community that I've been welcomed into. And I'm so appreciative of the opportunity to drive forward the success of RLY to date and well beyond. So jumping back into the deck, in its simplest of definitions, RLY is a creator monetization and community engagement project that's built on the RLY protocol. We have been, over the past number of months, working to empower creators and artists to launch their own personal cryptocurrencies and build a digital economy with their communities by offering multiple benefits and access points. At the end of the day, our mission is to attract, recruit, and retain successful creative communities and help them launch and grow their independent economies. As a quick aside, this is what I've been working on over the past 6 or 7 years at Patreon, and I really see the opportunity within RLY to take this to the next level of putting control and independence in the hands of creators. As you know, we've been actively working to grow the organization and have built out a stellar senior team. Mike Lee continues with RLY.io as our CTO to guide our new product and engineering leaders. Chris Fortier just joined us from Twitch to lead our product initiatives. Carol Chen joined us last week from Pandora to lead engineering and is partnering with Jeremy, who's been with the project for a number of years, on the path forward for our engineering resources. Stephanie Pereira, who many of you have met, is leading our creator success initiatives and working with Jason on overseeing our community success. And Nick Millman is heading up our creator partnerships team. Kurt, who all of you know, I'm sure, is heading up our communications. Michelle Vautier is leading our payments and joins us from Patreon beforehand. And Johnny Tong just joined us to head up our finance department. And we're in the process of looking for a general counsel and also building out a people operations function so that we can better serve the organization of RLY. So to date, we've had a really successful initial launch since October of 2020, but we're now ready to take RLY to the next level. For Q3, we're looking to solidify our foundation for the next phase of creator adoption. And there are so many various work streams that we've been working towards to have a successful quarter. Our top priorities within the RLY organization are: one, relaunching our website. And many of you have seen the exciting, as we've called it, artwork that we've been working on with our brand foundation. But we'll be relaunching our website in the next week or so. And that's going to be a really exciting milestone for the project to see what RLY looks like into the future. And also to have a brand that stands next to all of the great creators that we're working with today and all the great creators that are going to be joining the RLY project in the future. Second, we're going to be launching our NFT product with a full launch. As many of you know, we've been in sort of the beta invite-only process of our NFT product. And there's so much more to come in solidifying the NFT vision and how it nestles within the overall fungible tokens that we offer as part of social tokens. And I'm really excited about the vision that we have around NFTs and how they function on the sidechain and interact with the social tokens that we've already launched to date. So more to come there, but really excited for that launch. Third, we're looking to solidify the strategy and timelines to address compliance and payment issues that many of us have seen over the past year or so. We've done a lot to build the infrastructure to launch social tokens with compliance and with fiat on-ramps. And there's so much more that can be done to solidify that roadmap to have a really compliant and phenomenal payments infrastructure that allows for onboarding of the next 100 million fans or individuals into crypto. We're going to define the workflow for new departments and onboard new team members. We're rolling out our new branding and communications beyond just the website through education videos, through brand campaigns, through content that we're going to be publishing on the website, through additional communications. So there's a ton of work that we're doing from our branding communications front. And we're working to establish the next cohort of icon, trailblazer, and established creators onto the platform. Since joining the project, we've been having a lot of conversations with creators and have built a robust pipeline. And a few weeks ago, you may have seen Nick Millman's presentation about what we're doing there. But rest assured that there's a really robust pipeline of really industry-defining creators who are trailblazing the adoption of crypto within their creative communities. And we're excited to be rolling out many of those in the coming months. And then finally, we're going to be developing our ongoing creator success playbook so that we can work with creators to help them grow their economies over time and understand how we can leverage the benefits of crypto within their engagements with their fans. And we'll be highlighting our wins both internally and externally. Something that I think we haven't done a great job of to date is publishing those things that we're doing, behind the closed walls of RLY, the company, out to the community and out to the world at large. So we're going to be spending a lot of time doing that. And more broadly, the senior team has identified 5 main goals for us to aspire to in the coming years. First, RLY, we look to become the preeminent crypto monetization platform to enable creators to make a sustainable living while pioneering game-changing community interactions. Second, we want to inspire and educate creators on the benefits of building their own token economies. Third, we want to focus on core employee and team behaviors that will drive success, respect, and inclusion, and that we can reflect those values externally with the community that we engage with. Fourth, we want to introduce and evangelize social tokens and cryptocurrencies to mainstream audiences, similar to the message and mission that Kevin shared at the beginning of this presentation. And then finally, we want to become a center of innovation and excellence in crypto in partnership with our developer community. So there's a lot to come from the RLY organization and the RLY project, but I just want to say I'm super excited to be working with the community and driving this forward. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mahesh to talk a little bit about Superlayer.
All right, thanks, Bremner. So Superlayer is a venture studio that will create products and services built on top of the RLY network with a focus on mass tokenization of people, brands, and communities. And so the studio will conceptualize and incubate a variety of new tokenized consumer applications leveraging RLY and basically help drive these projects from 0 to 1 by assisting with G&A, staffing, go-to-market, product strategy, economy design, regulatory matters, funding, and a bunch of other things. And so we're just incredibly excited about the prospect of building and launching multiple social token products in parallel, because it obviously greatly expands the potential of the RLY network and RLY in particular. The leadership team consists of myself and Kevin as managing partners. Gary Coover has recently been brought on as COO, and Ira is moving over to serve as general counsel for the studio. We'll have a lot more to share soon, but expect the studio to launch in the fall, along with news about the first few projects. Over to you, Amit.
Thanks, Mesh. I'm going to take us through the next two entities that Kevin mentioned. The top, the RLY Network Association and the RLY Ecosystem DAO. The RLY Network Association is probably the most familiar part to me. It's kind of what you hear me talking about a lot on the forums or in Discord, but it's really like, it's the entity that sits at the center of all of this, right? It's responsible for our core protocol, the advancement of the core technology that sits underneath the application layer here. So that's the RLY Network Association kind of protocol side of it, tech side of it. And the other aspect that we're bringing into this entity is overseeing the entirety of the community treasury. So really the objectives of this group, this RLY Network Association, are to continue to advance the protocol, make interesting decisions around which blockchains we're partnering with, which applications we're bringing on, and then also look into interesting ways to use the community treasury, continue to kind of push the boundaries on innovation, look for opportunities for investment, and really drive ongoing adoption of the overall network through licensing grants. While we're doing all that, I think it's really incumbent upon the RLY Network Association to focus on transparency. Is one of the key differences in kind of how we've operated to date versus how the RLY Network Association will operate. This relates a lot to what Ira was saying in terms of the other organizations we've observed. If you guys are deep into the crypto space, you've probably seen Vitalik's kind of recent, I don't want to call it a rant, but recent tirade on how governance should work. And the intention here is kind of evolving the RLY Network Association governance to really have the decision making be done by a core group of executive board members at the association level, which is distinct from the RLY Ecosystem DAO that will continue to be governed by direct votes by the token holders. If you jump forward to the next slide there, the initial executive board is myself. You probably see me on the blogs, Alias on Discord, the forums, Daddy Fat Sack's been with the project since the start. Two other members that come from like very different parts of the current RLY ecosystem. You probably recently saw a video from Weiwei really outlining the strategy for our Asia expansion. I think what a lot of people didn't realize is Weiwei's been with us from the start. He's one of the co-founders of the group. And so, forming that strategy, running RLY Asia, figuring out the strategy there, it's a good representative for the application layer, the creators that he'll bring on, the international expansion for the whole ecosystem. The other initial executive board member is Ronan. So for folks that have kind of, followed the technology closely, that one of our, really our most important partner right now from the technology side is a company called Forte. So Ronan runs partnerships at Forte. He's deep in the crypto ecosystem. In college, he was running the blockchain group at Berkeley. He's an organizer for SF Blockchain Week. So very, very in the crypto community, key leader at one of the core technology partners for the RLY network. And so out the gates, the proposal is to appoint the three of us as the members of the executive board, kind of oversee the protocol, oversee kind of the initial allocations of the community treasury. And the intent here is, again, in line with our overall plan for progressive decentralization. While we're the initial appointees, over time, the people on this executive board, the people that will run the RLY Network Association, will be elected by the community. So, you know, Ira mentioned that we kind of followed how Synthetics has done it. I'm pretty impressed by the Spartan Council. And so we'd love to see kind of community members, community voting, decide who these executive board members are over time, and continue to carry the network forward. On the RLY Ecosystem DAO side, this is where that kind of direct token governance will continue. And the intent here is to form this DAO, this decentralized autonomous organization, fund it with a meaningful amount of USDC and rallies. So the proposal is to put 2 million USDC, 20 million rally under the direct control of the Ecosystem DAO. The intent is we'd love for this DAO to use these funds to organically grow the RLY network ecosystem, really think about developers, creators, businesses, community, put these funds to the best use that's going to grow the ecosystem. But I'll emphasize that, you know, the intention here is that this is completely community run. The funds are there, like the on-chain governance will be set up. And so, you know, while we have hopes for what it does, it's really up to the community to drive that fund and all of the decisioning around it. If the proposal moves forward, we'll set up this RLY Ecosystem DAO over the course of the next few weeks. And really, if anyone from the community has experience setting up DAOs, is really interested in some of the technology behind it, wants to be active in it, reach out via the forums. Kevin and Gary are working on setting that up right now. And so, you know, love as much participation as possible. I think next up is Rob for Rally Asia.
Thanks, Amit. We're still in the process of naming and branding it, but the Creator Project in Asia will mirror the success of Rally US and empower Asian creators to launch creator coins and NFTs within their communities. This will be separate and independent from Rally in the US. And leadership will include Weiwei and myself, and we're building a team that will specialize in the regional market with particular emphasis on regulations and creator acquisition. For key roles we've already identified, and we'll hire and onboard impressive talents who've previously worked at companies like Google and Apple. And we're looking to launch in the fall, so we'll keep you all updated on our progress. Back to Kevin.
Thanks, Rob. All right, so we've outlined a lot of details in the forum, and actually covered a little bit in the previous section, but want to make sure that we touch again on and provide more transparency on the governance. So go to the next slide. So RLY Network Association is the proposal right now is to appoint Amit, Weiwei, as well as Ronan to the executive board. And then starting in Q1 of 2023, what we would probably do at that point is, well, first of all, we're going to work with the community to define the process, but the idea is to give the RLY Network Association the next 18 or so months to get the structure set up, make sure that as the RLY Network Association both works with new blockchain partnerships that we've been in discussions with, and I've mentioned a little bit in our Discord, as well as thinking about the kind of treasury operations and so forth. There's a lot of core things to set up, and the idea is to give this smaller team the ability to run really fast and make sure we get the basic structure set up and make sure we're advancing the protocol and helping Rally West, or the current Rally US organization, and Rally Asia, and all the new projects building on the protocol, the ability to get set up on the technology. And then starting in Q1 2023, what we do is probably add new executive board members from a direct vote from the RLY token holders at that point in time. And then we'll think about how do we turn over the board in the, what is the sort of tenure of a board member, and how do we turn that over? So we'll be working on all of that over the next few months. Go to the next slide. As Amit mentioned, the RLY Ecosystem DAO, we're really excited about what's happening with DAOs in general across the crypto ecosystem. when we first started Rally, there was, I was really fascinated by, the Aragon project, which was one of the kind of, first sort of DAO management platforms. It was a little hard to use, not very user-friendly, but they were pioneering some really cool stuff. And these days, there's a whole new generation of DAO platforms. And so, I know Koopa Troopa in the forums has talked about Syndicate as well as DAO House and a few others. So we've been spending some time evaluating some of these new platforms that will make it easy for RLY token holders to set up proposals, figure out how to manage an on-chain treasury through multi-sig, which is probably the hardest part of making sure that a DAO is run securely. And how do proposals get formed? How do the disbursements happen out of the DAO treasury? Those are the things that we're going to take time to evaluate platforms and make sure that we help this DAO get set up. And as Amit mentioned, we're very interested to make sure that this is what we can help drive some of the technical evaluations and make sure that the DAO gets funded. The intent of this is really for none of the leadership from any of the 5 entities to have any leadership positions inside of the DAO, but really have this be entirely driven by the community itself. So really excited to see what the community does with this treasury. Rally, the US organization, will run pretty similarly to how it's currently run. So there's it's a Delaware C corporation, there's a board of directors, there's an executive management team that Bremner ran through. So it'll continue to run pretty much as it does right now. It's just that the mandate of Rally is much more clear in that there's these other entities that are doing new product development or developing the core blockchain technology or managing the treasury, et cetera. So just being really clear about what Rally, the US organization, is doing. Stephanie has already been starting to work with the community in terms of when we first set up the community governance, there were things like the ability for RLY token holders to vote on which creators are on our platform. But if you think about the structure that we've set up, the RLY Network Association and the ability to create new tokens and so forth is really at the network level. And so we're really thinking through and evolving, how do we keep the community participating broadly in the Rally organization, as well as in a different sense, participating in the RLY Network Association, and just being more clear about which organizations are doing what, and make sure that we break up power between the different entities, as well as the RLY token holders, to be more clear. Rally Asia will look similar to the Rally US org. It's going to be set up in Singapore. It'll have a CEO and a management team that we're pulling together. The interesting thing about Asia is that, of course, Asia has very different types of obviously cultural language and obviously time zone differences and a few other things. But probably the most important is that creators in Asia use very different types of platforms than what we have in the West. China in particular blocks, several of the big platforms that creators use in the West. And so there's other platforms like Douyu or Huya or WeChat that are popular there. Korea has Kakao, that is big. Japan has Line. So there's Southeast Asia, across Indonesia, and a few others have very different types of platforms as well. So the ability to have a team dedicated to that region and really focused on serving creators, as well as the regulatory and compliance matters that are unique to that region without being burdened by the US compliance matters, I think it'll set us up for way more success, and then also achieve our goals of decentralization and really breaking up kind of power and offering more choices for creators all around the world. And finally, Superlayer Labs, we're actually setting this one up in a really interesting way. So the structure here is going to be a general partner, limited partner setup. So it'll operate in some ways as what a venture capital firm may operate as. But there's a key difference in that Superlayer isn't just passively sitting by waiting for entrepreneurs to show up and pitch ideas. Superlayer's kind of mission is to really go out and recruit people, but incubate projects. in the last 3 years, as we've been watching the crypto ecosystem grow and all the different types of new consumer projects that are coming up or have come out, as well as announced projects, we've had so many ideas for new things that we would build. It's ideas that we get from both talking to creators, talking to users, talking to other crypto projects. And so we're going to explore a broad canvas of how do we help tokenize, how do we create new products that tokenize not just creators with a very, very large audience already, but how do we help a whole new generation of creators, of consumers become creators of their own social tokens and NFTs and their digital identity online. And so those are the things that we're going to be exploring at Superlayer. This slide here sort of, we put the slide together to help with the visualization of the network. And so Ethereum right now is the kind of layer one that we've anchored ourselves to. The RLY protocol sits as we think about it, kind of a social token protocol above Ethereum mainnet. I think over time we'll probably add other layer ones in addition to Ethereum. And so we're really excited about today some of the other layer ones and some of the trade-offs they make. We're in particular excited about Solana and actively exploring that. And then there's the RLY bridge. So that connects the Ethereum mainnet to the sidechain. The sidechain is then what currently RLY.io builds on, what RLY Asia will build on, and what the Superlayer Labs projects will build on as well. And we're really excited to, over time, make sure that this ecosystem grows, both in terms of the number of projects that are building here, as well as the different layer one protocols that we work with. Okay, I know in the forums there was a lot of questions about budgets, and so we'll definitely, I know we've got a few questions picked out from that parts of the forum that we'll go over. But I wanted to give just a little bit more detail here as well. So the way that we've set up the budgets is with RLY, the US organization, being the flagship. We've got a big team there. RLY is developing some of the core software that both RLY Asia as well as Superlayer is inheriting. And so we've got kind of the largest budget from both the USDC and RLY standpoint heading over to the flagship. RLY Asia is just getting stood up. But even though it's just getting stood up right now, we anticipate actually being able to launch in the late fall, as Rob mentioned, because of all the work that the RLY US team has been doing over the last several years. So we have a smaller budget there, but that's not to diminish anything that we're attempting to achieve in the RLY Asia organization. And then the way that, I'll touch on Superlayer in a little bit in terms of how we're working on the budget for Superlayer. And the last point here is that the RLY Ecosystem DAO, what we wanted to do here is make sure that the community has a pretty sizable budget, again, for this, what we think about as this first grant from the association. And then over time, the association, as we become comfortable with the technology and the platform for running the DAO and the ability to hold in a multi-sig treasury for the DAO, the ability to move more and more funds into the DAO over time. One of the things that was brought up in the forums is, well, what happens in terms of this big, huge RLY grant, to the various different entities? What does that do for dilution? We'll touch on that a little bit further. But what we wanted to do here is kind of break out between team, marketing, and operations, RLY grants, as well as USDC in terms of the budgets that we put together. There's been a ton of work by the finance team all across the different entities that we're setting up to do pretty thoughtful planning on a head-by-head basis, as well as resource-by-resource basis, to make sure that we're adequately funded for all the way through the end of 2022. And the nice thing, one of the other things I'll kind of point out is that the current community treasury holds over 105 million USDC. We've been our community agent has been very successful. We make sure that we grow our treasury and diversify into stables, as well as continue to hold a good amount of RLY. And so the nice thing is, as we set up these different entities, we're going to be able to use USDC in terms of the each entity will have a sizable grant of USDC, such that there's no need to liquidate the RLY. So the RLY is really meant to go for people that we're recruiting, talent that we're working with in terms of whether it's creators or other type of talent, and increasingly vendors at this point are asking us, or asking to get paid in RLY as opposed to US dollars. And so, obviously the reason why they're asking for that is that they're looking for long-term alignment and to grow with the overall RLY community. Else they would just ask for US dollars. And so we're pretty excited about that, and we'll touch on this a little bit more in the questions as well. One of the things I wanted to touch on specifically is the Superlayer budget. So this was actually inspired by one of the forum posts around one of the grants earlier this year. And there was a community member that suggested, hey, instead of just doing grants, why don't we explore evolving and using more sophisticated structures, for example, like a non-recourse loan or other structures. And so what we've done here with setting up the Superlayer budget is because we wanted to set up, so number one, we want to incubate and help set up new businesses that are building on the RLY protocol. And the idea, if we do our jobs right, is that we're going to create a bunch of new independent entities, hopefully funded by venture capital firms, et cetera, that have been quite excited about the overall mission of RLY. But then also because of the way that we invest the funds and use kind of this general partner or limited partner structure, we should be able to return funds back into the RLY community treasury over time. And so we've set up kind of this credit facility. There's a lot more detail there. But the core of this is to say, instead of this being just a grant to the Superlayer project, what we wanted to do was help really get Superlayer focused on both building on RLY as well as returning capital back into the treasury. Okay, so in terms of timelines, and we'll make sure we get to questions. We're going to, today is about, we're going to have this community call. We have a creator call to discuss the proposal and the questions that we have. Assuming we'll continue to monitor forums and look to potentially, if questions kind of die down, we'll look to post a snapshot on Monday, and then Thursday would have the result from the community vote. With that, I'll turn it over to Kurt for questions.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, everybody. As we mentioned, we went through Discord and we went through the forum and we identified some trends that we were seeing in some of the questions. So we're going to address some of those right now with the team. The first, as Kevin mentioned, really has to do with the budget. I just popped them in the chat so you could see them. Kevin, I think this would be good for you and Johnny to answer. The first one, how are these budgets calculated?
I can take that. So like Kevin mentioned, we looked at each entity and we assessed the needs with each of these leaders and for what it takes to launch, to scale the team and deliver the objectives for the team. We went to a bottoms up where we assessed all the required roles by function, and then we also evaluate all the market comps to kind of come up with that. And then for marketing initiatives, we assessed the programs needed to draw more creators and for new users into our token ecosystem. For operations, we also did a bottoms up analysis to determine all the funds needed to operate each of our 5 entities. So pretty detailed work that we did to get this going.
And Johnny, building upon that, one of the questions was, will a third party be brought in to audit the finances?
I can take this one, Johnny. So our objective over time is to make sure that more and more of the transactions, certainly on the sidechain, but overall in terms of how the community treasury, runs, more and more of this operates, on chain. So the whole point of crypto is that there shouldn't be a question of, well, where did all the funds go? Because we start with an on-chain treasury itself, the ability to monitor that using tools in Web3. We of course want to put more and more on chain, so we don't anticipate needing to use third-party audits. But one thing that we did spell out in the forums is making sure that there's a quarterly transparency in terms of how funds are dispersed, as well as KPIs that we're going to be working to set up over the next quarter, and then report on a quarterly basis going forward throughout the community.
Great. A follow-up from Phelps. Since budget/funding requests for Rally.io are required quarterly, what would mean for the network association that has full control over whether to continue or disband Rally.io every quarter?
Yeah, I guess I can take that. I don't know if the network association, the intention here is to promote the usage and growth of the network. So it's kind of a funny framing of the question. It's almost adversarial in nature, but the intent is the network wants Rally.io to succeed. I think it's laid out in the proposal. There's sort of 5 tranches laid out with expected cost needs over the next really 2 years. And so the intention would be to understand what the milestones of Rally.io are and really kind of keep working with the team. Perhaps they'll need more budget, perhaps they'll need less budget, but the intention is to achieve success. And also, I mean, as we kind of allow these entities to operate, at some point, there'll be some degree of sort of self-funding, right? It can't be funded in perpetuity just by grants. So, yeah,
Thanks,
so
I think maybe a follow-up from Phelps as well. There seems to be no representation for Rally.io on the association board. Can we appoint an exec from Rally.io?
So that's done a little bit on purpose. As we split into these different entities, we wanted to make sure that the association was not made up of just yet people from Rally.io. So kind of creating a clean separation so that we make sure that the RLY Association is set up in a clean manner. And I think this will pay a lot of benefits in the future.
Great. Some of the other questions we got was a lot about the RLY price. So I'm going to pop in some of those questions here. And the first, what does the massive issuance of tokens mean for the dilution and RLY price in the short term?
Yeah, this is probably one of the bigger points in the forums, and I think it's a very valid question and concern. So that's why I really wanted to make sure, as I touched on in the budget standpoint, is that over the last, since we appointed the community agent, which I think was back in December of last year, the community agent has just done a phenomenal job really diversifying the treasury and making sure that we have in this first phase enough of a stablecoin treasury to pay salaries and pay vendors and need US dollars. So we're at a point where, given the budgets that we've worked really hard to construct at this point, there's no need to sell RLY to fund basic things to continue building across the network. So I don't, as I talked about in the forums, I don't expect there to be much liquidation of RLY to do the funding for what we're talking about. We're basically using the existing treasury that's already been diversified into stables to fund the operations for the next 18 months across the entire ecosystem of projects. In terms of the RLY specifically as being granted, a lot of what we are trying to do is make sure that as we, as Bremner, hopefully you guys saw, we haven't put all the names of all the key leadership that across all the different entities, but we've recruited a lot of fantastic people from across the creator ecosystem and increasingly in the crypto ecosystem. And what we wanted to make sure was that employees and leadership that's coming aboard, whether it's for Rally or Asia or Superlayer or anything else, everyone is focusing on RLY as part of their overall compensation package. So everyone's aligned in terms of helping to grow RLY as a network and make it successful. And so we want to hold the same type of asset that anybody participating in the community holds and be completely aligned in that way.
Thank you, Annette. You just answered the next question, but I'll pose it anyway. Are there concerns about existing creators and their supporters losing interest in the platform if the USD value of their coin is greatly reduced over the next year or so?
Yeah, because we're a USA-based team mostly, we actually now have a lot of people from outside the US involved as well, but especially in Asia. But because the core of what we started Rally, or originally Rally with, was a lot of US-based team members, what we put in place as kind of our cardinal rule number one, and I'm glad to see this generally taken up by the early community at Rally, is that we just don't talk about price. And it's especially, this is from the SEC's perspective, probably the number one sin that crypto projects can make. So generally the projects that have gotten in trouble with the SEC is because they talk about price, and they talk about it in ways that cause a lot of consternation for regulatory bodies that are trying to do their job. So number one, we don't talk about price specifically, but we do recognize that RLY and what Rally is trying to do in particular is be a monetization project that helps creators and their communities monetize in ways that they can't in current creator platforms. And so, and part of that monetization does depend, on the price of RLY. But as I sort of laid out in the post there, what we spent a lot of time thinking about is how do we make sure we design real usage and utility for the RLY token? How do we then get more creators, users, and business partners using RLY and all the different creator coins and other assets that are created on top of the sidechain, and make sure that that can start to grow exponentially over time. And then make sure that we design the network in such a way that usage of the tokens in this manner, especially as we add more and more users to the network, will cause RLY to, will have mechanisms in terms of the network being designed appropriately such that the network captures the value of the growth of all this different usage. And so ultimately, this is based on supply and demand in the marketplace. And the goal, of course, is we decentralize and create entities that can move much faster in terms of targeting Asia creators and creating new products that drive new usage for the RLY, that we increase the demand side of that equation. And as you know, the supply of RLY when we first created the smart contract is capped at 15 billion.
Thanks, Kevin.
Kurt,
Go ahead, Ira.
I want to just riff off of what Kevin said, because I completely agree with him. The SEC has been a force that all of you guys are aware has really driven the way that projects have tried to form and design what they talk about. One of the key things that makes Rally and RLY different is not just because we can't talk about price, but also because there's so much more to talk about. So just want to kind of highlight the fact that really why the SEC goes after projects that focus so much on price. It's because in a lot of cases, that's all they got. That's really, they're trying to shill a coin. They're trying to say, hey, buy this, the price is going to go up. The point that we've always emphasized, and all you creators out there, I know that you guys are well aware of this discourse, is that there's so much more to talk about. The key to why this platform is so powerful is because there's so much more to price. The reason why a lot of folks are engaged with it are because there is so much more. We're building real product. We're really empowering creators. So I just want to focus on that. Price shouldn't be the primary objective, and we don't believe it will be, because as the water rises on the RLY protocol, more apps build onto it, the more everyone benefits. So yeah, I just want to add to that. Go ahead, Kurt.
Thanks all. I'm seeing more questions pop in, but I do want to get to some sidechain questions because we saw so many in Discord and forum. So I'm going to ask some of Amit. Amit, who controls the sidechain, i.e. where they'll continue to be voting on changes to curves and the like?
Yeah, as far as the voting goes, we said part of it is to allow the RLY Network Association the authority to make some of these decisions that were previously in the purview of token-based governance. Also to allow the applications on top of the RLY network to make some of those decisions. So I think specific to things like curve changes, I think Rally.io intends to kind of cultivate the community, continue to evolve them in choices, but it won't be the same type of sort of governance control over those. And then at the RLY Network Association level, it would be the executive board members kind of overseeing those decisions. In terms of who controls the sidechain, I offered an answer on the forums there, but I think it's important to recognize that the sidechain is run by a company that RLY partners with called Forte. They're doing a lot of interesting things to create a new layer one that allows for interesting use cases. They've made some trade-offs in terms of privacy, security, transparency, and so on. And so we'll continue to push the boundaries in the direction that's consistent with our views on decentralization, but we're ultimately beholden to Forte for some of those details there. Now, what we can do at the network level is start thinking of more of a chain agnostic strategy. So you can think of what's happening on top of the side chain. You can imagine how that could really be placed on top of any layer one or layer two. And that's really what the RLY Network Association will be pursuing. So while we can't necessarily control the specifics of the current Forte sidechain, and there's some choices that they need to make, what we can do is decentralize across more base level blockchains.
A follow-up on sidechains. What is the plan for decentralizing the sidechain or migrating to a public chain?
Yeah, I think I touched on that there. We'd like the RLY network protocol to sit on top of multiple blockchains, really have a chain agnostic strategy there. So while the current sidechain, someone asked about like what's the consensus mechanism on it and so on, like that's going to be up to Forte, but what we can do at the protocol level is use multiple different chains. And that's where kind of our view on decentralization comes in.
Thanks, Amit. We had one about the RLY Creator ecosystem that I'll ask of Brimner. What will this mean for the future development of the RLY interface and the ease of use for people who don't know crypto to feel comfortable buying and holding?
It's a great question. And I think that this decentralization proposal actually accelerates our ability to invest in the RLY.io interface and create a more easy, simplistic, and understandable mechanism for people who aren't comfortable or knowledgeable about crypto to buy and hold. I think one of the challenges in having it all be within one, call it entity, is that people had to get really deep into crypto and also felt like they had to get really deep into crypto to understand the benefits of the RLY.io experience. And in this scenario, it's much more about how can creators engage with their fans in an engagement and monetization platform built on top of crypto that is RLY.io. And then there's the underlying infrastructure of the RLY protocol that is powering this. And so I think that differentiation and that separation will actually make it even easier for folks who may not be as familiar with crypto to want to participate and to recognize the value of this fan to creator interaction. And there's a lot of work being done from our product teams in making that interaction even more seamless and even more understandable.
Great. We have another question from the audience. Quote from the forum post: in the RLY Ecosystem DAO, every RLY holder is a member and has the authority to vote, influence the direction of the RLY Ecosystem DAO. In the future, will this include creator coin holders backed by RLY and other RLY project tokens?
Yeah, I think the short answer, Phelps, is yes. Like that's 100% the intent. Anyone who has RLY in any of its forms on any of the chains we interact with is a part of this DAO. You're as deep into the crypto space as any of us. You've got to realize that these cross-chain tools just don't exist. So it's up to us to build the tools that'll enable that. And yeah, it's certainly something that we're committed to doing over time. But as a practical matter, in the most immediate term, the DAO is likely to be set up on Ethereum mainnet, and token voting to influence the DAO is likely to happen on Ethereum mainnet.
Great. Thank you, Amit. Well, we are at time. We will continue to have these discussions, and please continue to ask questions on the forums and in Discords. The team will be out there throughout the day and throughout the weekend to continue to have this dialogue. Reiterate what Ira said at the beginning. Thank you guys so much for being part of this journey with us, being here today, and we look forward to a lot more discussion. Thank you.